What's up, guys? This is HadukenSharon, and we are back with another video. As we all know, the draft is coming up in the next few days, and I kind of want to go over a few prospects, but today especially, I'm going to be talking about the one and only Jaden Ivey. Before we get into the video, if you guys can, please subscribe and smash that like button. We are nearing 400 subscribers. We're about to be going live a good amount as well. As you know, free agency's coming up, the draft, all that good stuff. So please, if you can, do so and drop a comment below. Let me know how you feel about Jaden Ivey. To begin with, Jaden Ivey is 6'4", 200 pounds. He just played in college in Purdue, and he had a pretty good sophomore season over there. He averaged about 17 points, 5 rebounds, along with 3 assists and a steal. He only averaged zero point 0.6 blocks, and one thing that is something that we are going to be talking about later, he averaged 2.6 turnovers, which clearly isn't the best when you look to the assist to turnover ratio. Now, I kind of want to start off by talking about the type of player that Jaden Ivey is and something that he could be in the future. In my mind, I think Jaden Ivey can be a near all-star type player at least. I don't know about the superstar level. That's something that time will tell. But for now, I think that he could at least be an all-star player during his prime. So to start off, I'm going to be talking about his offensive pros transitioning into the NBA. So Jaden Ivey, as we all know, has crazy athleticism, and he finishes at will, as we saw in college. You saw it during the NCAA. Even though he did struggle a little bit, his finishing is one of his key components to be successful in the NBA. If you look at his clips, you look at film, you look at the way he finishes, he has a crazy hang time that goes along with his athleticism, and he angles his body perfectly midair to get a bucket in the paint. And I think that's one of those things that I think is kind of guaranteed when he comes into the NBA, being able to finish. He also has a strong will of getting to the rim whenever he wants to. And I think one good thing for Jaden Ivey will be getting to that free throw line, because the way that he forces himself into the paint, and as you can see, a lot of people can't really stop him. When he gets into the air, he gets his positioning with his body. He kind of almost, he's kind of guaranteed to make a bucket. That comes with his aggressiveness. That comes with his athleticism. And I think in the NBA, once he gets into the pace of the league, because, some people struggle at times, rookies, it always happens. Of course, we never know because players grow in different ways every single time. They have their own path in growing. But I do think that is going to be a strong suit for Jaden Ivey. But to continue on with his pros that I think he will have coming in, the three ball. You saw him in college shooting threes really confidently. He shot 35.9% from the 3-point line. And then you kind of look at what could be if he consistently hits that deep three ball in the NBA. Of course, it's different in the league. Everything is. But I do think a key factor for Jaden Ivey is his confidence, because you see the way he plays with swagger. The crazy finishes. You see people compare him to Ja a lot. I don't really see it. I'm going to talk about that a little later, but the way he shoots with confidence from that 3-point line is something that I do see transitioning into the NBA. To kind of add on to that as well, I do really think that he could be the type of player that plays really well off the ball. And that comes with him being able to shoot that three ball. In my opinion, I say this all the time. I love when players can play on the ball, and if they need to and they're put in a certain position, they could play off the ball as well. And that's the type of player I think he can be. And if he can be that, I do think that he could reach that star level that a lot of people have been talking about regarding him in this draft. So going on from that, we're going to be talking about his negatives, his cons, transitioning into the NBA. And something that I do have is sometimes he can be trigger happy. We all know players that sometimes just chuck shots up. They make a few shots and then they continue going and attacking, being aggressive, kind of having tunnel vision. And when watching his film and watching his games, I do see that occasionally. That is something that could be fixed, but that is something that I notice. Another one, this is a main factor in Jaden Ivey when we talk about him potentially being able to be a star player. And when you talk about a star player, you talk about a guy that could do everything. And Jaden Ivey, of course, we all know this. If you watch Jaden Ivey, he has absolutely zero in between game. Zero. And if he wants to be that player that he's talking about he wants to be one of the best players in the NBA, like you've been hearing a lot from this draft class recently, he needs to get that in between game right. Shoot the mid range, shoot those floaters a lot more, and then you will become a bigger threat. You watch him in college, he barely attempts mid ranges, and when he does, it's mainly off, and he's not really confident in his shot. So I would hope that he works on it, but I do think that he's gonna struggle during his rookie season, and it's gonna take some time to develop. When talking about Jaden Ivey, of course, one big question that I have is his playmaking and how he could transition into the NBA as a playmaker. And personally, I don't know if he can really be a true PG. My eyes, I think he's a combo guard, as I mentioned a little earlier. But I do think there's steps that he can make, and with small fixes and better reads in the NBA level, I think he could become a player that averages around 5 or 6 assists, which I think would be great for him because, my opinion, I don't really see him as that type of guy that will be known for his playmaking and defense. I think he's more of that offensive guy, that guy that can get you a bucket. One big thing when it comes to Jaden Ivey and his playmaking ability is that I personally think that he has to be willing to pass a lot more, especially when you watch him. Sometimes he rushes up a shot too much. He's going quicker than he actually thinks he is, and it results in a turnover. And I think that has to do with his IQ and just him being young. So I think when he gets into the NBA, gets used to the pace, he starts playing more within the team and playing with a higher IQ level. I think it will be a big factor into the way he develops as a playmaker. So the last con that I do want to talk about regarding Jaden Ivey is his defense and how inconsistent he could be in that certain category. When looking at him playing in Purdue, he had his moments where he can get his nice chase down block. He could get a clean steal, reading the offense from the other team really well. But he has a lot of moments where he kind of falls asleep back door. He leaves the corner man open for the three. He's not really paying attention too much to the offense. And I think he gets stuck ball watching a decent amount when he is on the defensive end. And I think that hurts him a lot. You watch him and he's in these games, you watch the way that he's ball watching and the other team is getting open looks. It's not really the best thing for him. And I would like him to put a lot more effort on the defensive end because we all know that his offense in general is his better factor as a prospect, but that defense is really a negative. I know he averages a steal. I do think that coming into the NBA, I think he's gonna be that type of player that is gonna average a steal, maybe like half a block. But I don't really see too much in his defensive potential. I just think he's gonna be that type of guy that has a lot of offense and have a little defense category wise. The last thing that I did forget to mention that is clear as day is that Jaden Ivey's first step is very lethal, and I think it's going to be very important throughout his career and something that's going to be huge for him as a scorer, getting past his defender and continue to get to the basket with his will and just his speed. That's really going to be a fun thing to watch because of how quick he is and how easy it could be for him to get to that basket. And I'm going to be interested to see that further on in his career. So now I'm done talking about what type of player Jaden Ivey is. And I kind of want to touch on the comparisons I have for him for past players or current players. And I kind of want to talk about some rumors considering the team that he may be going to. So a few days ago, Woj said that teams that aren't at 4 and kind of are interested in trading up are Detroit, Indiana, Washington, and the New York Knicks. And to me personally, I do think that the Kings don't draft Ivy. I really do think this is a pick they will continue to listen to offers for. And this is mainly because they kind of came out with the news that the Kings aren't really crazy interested in Ivy compared to Keegan Murray. And they also said that the Kings aren't Ivy's preferred destination. So when you look at that and you look at what they can truly get with trading back, I do think it's something that's in play. Keegan Murray, I think he's a guy that probably goes like 5 to 7, somewhere around that range. So I do think that the Kings would kind of be smart to trade back. And when thinking about the teams that Woj talked about, the Pistons are right there. They're just a pick behind, but I don't really see them trading back. I really don't. I don't think it would make sense for either team. Obviously, it would make sense for the Kings, but the Pistons are literally right there. And if the Kings really want to draft Keegan Murray, they could draft him, and then Ivy would just be at 5 for the Pistons. And I could kind of say the same thing with the Pacers, but I don't know. I don't really see why the Pacers would fully want him. They kind of already have small guards there. They have Tyrese Halliburton, and they also have Duarte, who they just drafted. But they could run the 3 guard lineup with Rick Carlisle, but I don't think he was too happy with that. As you saw, he didn't really play Brunson in the playoffs the season before this one. The next one is the Washington Wizards, who I truly don't know how interested they are, but they obviously are interested. They have the 10th pick, and they could come up with a trade package, maybe trade Kuzma along with the 10th pick and then some more assets, maybe a future first. But I really don't know what they have that would interest them. And then lastly, we have the New York Knicks, obviously my Knicks. I hope they try to trade up for him. I do think the Knicks could get a package up for the Kings, but now that they have Sabonis, it kind of makes it hard for me to imagine that. But I do think something that they could do is trade that 11th pick, trade a future first, preferably not from 2023, but it may be something that has to be used if we really want Ivy like that. Ivy is CAA. Leon Rose, who is the president of the Knicks, is also he's also CAA. He literally like owns it. He's the owner of CAA basically. And I do think that's something that could happen. I pray that it happens. I would, the obvious answer from a Knicks fan like me is that I would try to trade Julius Randle, the 11th pick, and a future first round pick, as well as a throw in maybe like a Grimes. But it just doesn't make sense now that they have Sabonis. But I do think, and this is just my prediction, that if the Knicks do somehow end up getting that 4th pick, I do think it will be a 3-team trade that would send Randall over to another team and then give more assets to the Kings along with that. But for now, I really don't know what to expect with that. So finally, to talk about an NBA comparison that I do think kind of reminds me of Ivy, I personally would say he's a mix of John Wall and Westbrook at the same time. I won't say that he will be at the level of those guys because, Prime John Wall was very, very nice. I think he was very underrated. And Westbrook, obviously, in his prime, was an MVP player. But I just think there's a little too many similarities. Both very, very athletic PGs that are 6'3" and 6'4". And, he has kind of the same build. They are very similar in the way all of them basically have a quick first step. They're all athletic guards. Like I said, they're the same height, basically around the same height. And Jaden Ivey needs to gain some weight as well. I think that's important for him in his career. That's what I mainly see with that. And one that I always hear, and of course everyone hears, is Ja Morant. And I can see why people can say that because their game style is pretty similar. So I mean, I would be fine if people say that, but I don't really see that too much. I think personally it's just a little hard to find a comparison truly for Ivy because all these guards that are very athletic also are pretty good playmakers at the same time, and I don't think Ivy will get to the playmaking that those guys are at. but maybe he could get to the type of playmaking that D Rose is at. Maybe that could be a better. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I think about Jaden Ivey regarding his projection, what type of player he can be, and what he reminds me of. I appreciate you guys for watching and tuning in. Make sure to subscribe once again. Smash that like button. Drop comments to let me know what you guys felt about the type of player I think he will be. Let me know what you think his ceiling is and his future. And let me know if you think the Kings are going to trade that pick, because I personally do think they will. But this is HadukenSharon. I'm going to be back. I'm going to continue uploading. Get on the grind. And I will catch you guys later. Peace out.